Ayaka's story quest, which was released along with version 2.0, has been generally very well received by the community. But what exactly does this story quest do well from a narrative perspective, and what sets it apart from the other 20 that are in the game? In this video, I hope to answer those questions, as well as provide some of my own analysis for the quest's themes and implications. Of course, this video will contain spoilers if you haven't played it yet, but with that out of the way, here is my analysis and review of Kamisato Ayaka's story quest Act 1, The Whispers of the Crane and the White Rabbit. Being Ayaka's story quest, naturally most of the dialogue focuses on her characterization. Some story quests in the game choose to do this by using an NPC as a foil to the main character, such as Stanley in Ventes and Kunjun in Zhongli 2nd. This shifts the focus to making the NPC the driving force of the plot, but in turn, it opens up a scenario in which we get to see a side to our main character that we would probably not see otherwise. In Ayaka's on the other hand, she is very much the driving force, with no NPC playing too major of a role. There is a foil to her in the form of Tsubaki, but it is still Ayaka who dictates her own actions throughout the quest. This choice in direction makes a lot of sense in the context of Ayaka not having much characterization before this quest takes place. In the first act of the Inazuma Archon quest, she does play a significant role, but really all we got to learn about her is that she likes helping people, and in this game that is not a particularly distinctive trait. All in all, keeping Ayaka as the main focus gives her the screen time necessary to explore the many complexities within her personality. Now getting into the actual characterization, one of this story quest's strengths is how it introduces its concepts right away. Immediately after leaving the Komore Tea House at the end of the Archon Quest Act 1, we get a brief cutscene of Ayaka explaining who she thinks Tsubaki is and why she wants to meet her. So before the story quest even officially begins, Ayaka reveals some key parts of her personality, being that she doesn't like involving others in her problems due to her own selfishness, and that she holds the traveler in high regard. Right in the next part, we see another major trait, being the way that Ayaka's perspective differs so much from ours. Whereas we see the upcoming festival as an opportunity to have fun, Ayaka can't help but recognize the work side of it. Now this isn't inherently a bad trait, but it is a flaw as we will later see, in that her commitment to her responsibilities interferes with her ability to enjoy herself. All this foreshadowing I would consider relatively subtle, but it does a good job of easing us into Ayaka's character flaws. The next parts of the quest are certainly narratively relevant, but they kind of focus on rounding out the different aspects of Ayaka's character rather than directly contributing to her specific arc within the story quest. First, we need silk for the kimono, with the last remaining stock held by the International Trade Association. We learn that the silk has been stolen, so Ayaka volunteers to retrieve it in an unofficial capacity. This shows her strong sense of justice and kind personality, but also her ever-present concerns about the potential consequences of her actions. After placing the order for the kimono, we go to Kiminami Restaurant. When Ayaka runs off on her own, Anna tells us about how Ayaka has no friends. Despite her friendly personality and everyone admiring her, her status and elegance make people too scared to approach her. There's an explosion, and we find out that Ayaka really wanted to cook a foreign dish to give to Tsubaki, but couldn't. The problem is solved by pizza. When we later talk to her while eating, she expresses her own interest in foreign cultures. After returning to Ogura Textiles for the final time, Ayaka gives us a hairpin in the style of a white heron. Reflecting her title of Shirasagi Himegimi, this in a way acts like a physical representation of her friendship with the traveler. All these events contribute to showing the multidimensionality of Ayaka as a character. Just like in real life, people aren't defined by a single goal or personality trait, but are rather an accumulation of many ups and downs. We are provided with many of her different qualities, each of which gives us the audience an opportunity to find something which we can relate to. This human element is part of what makes these story quests so captivating, as we genuinely hope that the characters can come to peace with their conflicts. The plot starts to pick up when we go to visit Tsubaki. We find her notebook, and then it is revealed that Tsubaki is actually Ayaka's mother herself, Kamisato Kayo. I personally didn't see the twist coming at all, probably because it wasn't foreshadowed super heavily, but the purpose of this plot point is not the shock value. Rather, it represents a change in perspective for Ayaka. She tells us that her mother was always a role model for her, and that all she could remember of her was looking up to the dignified side of her personality. If this sounds a bit familiar, that's because that's exactly how the people of Inazuma view Ayaka, as a no-nonsense, elegant political figure. So this reveal breaks down the expectations she set up for herself that she needs to uphold this professional side to her at all times. But at this point, Ayaka's viewpoint is still heavily skewed, as she goes to flat out admit that she doesn't want to live as Kamisato Ayaka, but instead as an ordinary woman. This is only a brief moment within a quest that's over an hour long, but that statement is a pretty big deal if you think about it. She doesn't say she wants to be normal for a day or a week, but that she would throw away everything just to be freed from her responsibilities. It's really tragic because you know that this is something which she has thought about a lot, and due to her lack of friends, she also probably had those feelings bottling up inside for too long. Paimon says that Ayaka's mother had a big sense of responsibility, but to be honest, I interpret it a completely different way. To me, Tsubaki represents one extreme solution to Ayaka's problem that is also the easy way out. To adopt the persona of an ordinary person would be to ignore Ayaka's place in the Yashiro Commission and the Kamisato clan, as well as outright reject her own identity. I see Tsubaki as running away from the problem rather than confronting it, and it seems like Ayaka shares the same perspective. Soon after, Ayaka comes to terms with her conflict by stating that she doesn't plan on using an alter ego, but instead she just wants to live each day without regrets. This sentence and Dance Like Nobody's Watching perfectly encapsulate what I think the overall message of this story quest is. It's good to value your responsibilities, but if you become a slave to that dedication, it will overtake everything else in your life and you will lose your sense of self. The solution isn't to be something you're not, but to simply allow yourself to indulge in your own selfish desires. So a strong foot for Ayaka to set off on is enjoying a festival. Previously, her concerns were that it was improper etiquette and that it would reflect badly on the Yashiro Commission. Thus, ignoring all that and showing up to the festival anyway could certainly be considered selfish, but we soon see that Ayaka was also way more worried than she needed to be. All the people running the festival are super friendly and are willing to keep the stalls up a bit longer just for her. This represents a couple of significant things. First, it reinforces the fact that Ayaka's current identity isn't all bad. If Ayaka were to come disguised as a different person with the Traveler, it is possible that they would not have been able to have such a good time. Second, when people are offering their kindness to you, there's no point in thinking that you're a burden. At that point, the best thing you can do is gratefully accept it. In Chinju Forest, Ayaka spontaneously begins dancing. This represents the culmination of her growth across this quest, learning about how it's okay to ignore what others may think and do something simply because you want to. There's been some debate over whether Ayaka has romantic feelings for the Traveler or not, and I don't think she does. Of course, you're entitled to your own interpretation, but the way I see it is that the Traveler is Ayaka's first real friend, and also played a big role in helping her make peace with her identity crisis. Because they are so similar, both having strong desires to help others and doing things for the sake of their siblings, the Traveler is the perfect person for Ayaka to confide her worries in. Before, she had nobody to share her struggles with, and now she feels like she does. The Traveler is also unique in that they can teach Ayaka about a bunch of different things, yet they will always feel like an equal to her. So it's only natural that she would highly value such a friend, and also be a bit sad when recognizing that they will be continuing their travels. The ending is definitely bittersweet, with them both retaining lasting memories of each other, yet going their opposite ways. But I feel that Ayaka's gloom comes from her missing out on fully realizing this one-of-a-kind friendship rather than a romantic interest. While there is so much to love about this story quest, I have a couple of small gripes. To start, Toma's complete absence is very strange, especially given how Ayaka mentions that she considers him to be a friend. He didn't have to be in the quest, but to not even mention him? Since Ayaka was created all the way back in the closed beta test, I'm guessing this was all written before Toma's existence, which is a bit of a shame. Another thing is that I would have liked a bit more insight into how Tsubaki worked as an alter ego. Since Ayaka's mom was always busy, if she just pretended she was Tsubaki while daydreaming about normal life, then it feels like what's the point? Or did she actually have some sort of disguise and do things? While it's not a deal breaker, I feel that developing Ayaka's foil a bit more explicitly would have been nice. Lastly, some took issue with Ayaka asking us to help her meet Tsubaki because it felt like forcing the relationship between her and the Traveler when they didn't have much prior development. but the way I see it is that Ayaka took interest in us from before, likely from our established reputation as well as helping out the 3 visionless people, and used this as an opportunity to try and become good friends. This line about showing the traveler around really sells that for me. So no, I don't think Ayaka is an emotionally manipulative mastermind like some people do. She just happens to be a bit awkward and tried befriending us in a roundabout sort of way. Overall, I really liked the writing of this story quest. It was well structured and all the emotional bits landed. I felt that though Ayaka is not very relatable at face value, being a noblewoman, her problems felt realistic and grounded. This quest certainly did its job by teaching me a lot about Ayaka's character, as well as making me much more interested to learn more about her. So that wraps it up for all of my thoughts on this story quest. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, thank you for watching.